You're telling the people they're bad, and that's this. Notice the goalpost shift. As conservatives have come forward and said, teaching white kids that they're oppressors and black kids that they're oppressed and can never get ahead because of the oppression, the leftists come back and say, no, we're not really doing that. We're trying to highlight these systems that are in place. Who presides over the systems? That's what I'm trying to get you to understand here. It's that when they say it is systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I am. They're actually talking about the people, because it is the people who put these things in place. If the people create the system ultimately winds up with people. You can't get rid of a system without getting rid of the people who preside over the system. And now you've got this Texas teacher. We've had to bleep some of this. This Texas teacher is complaining about it. And by the way, have you noticed it's always Poindextery white people? I mean, the white dudes who clearly need a bath and the women in comfortable shoes.
Today is the first time our country has recognized Juneteenth. It's a national holiday, and yet I'm getting ready to go back to school in the fall, and my governor has put into place some legislation that many governors across the country have put into place, such as I can't teach anything divisive, I can't teach critical race theory, and I can't teach about racial equity. This is at all public schools, colleges, and universities. So, teachers, in the past, we've been activists. After the show of last year, we really need to stand up and do what's right for our kids right now. So, this is a call to action.
A call to action, teacher. You've got to fight the man. Wait. What are you fighting? The system. The system. The system is a fancy word so that they don't have to. That's what's going on here. There's the teacher of the year in Georgia has out an op-ed explaining why she feels critical race theory should be taught. Tracy Pinley, Georgia's 2020 teacher of the year, says part of her job is to speak out about the concerns of students, teachers, and parents. On Wednesday, the fourth grade teacher and an ex officio Georgia Board of Education member talked on the public broadcasting radio station about her background and passion for teaching. And she shared her thoughts about a move by the Board of Education in Georgia to ban critical race theory from being taught in K through 12 schools. She thinks critical race theory should be taught in schools and discussed systemic racism and how to combat it. We owe our kids the very best. And the best way to do it is to acknowledge these systemic barriers and make sure we're taking steps to tear them down. What are the systemic barriers? People, ultimately people, because systems in a democracy, systems in a republic, they are people. They exist because of people. So when you say we must tear them down, you are tearing down people. And how are you tearing down those people? You're making white people go to whites-only seminars to tell them they're bad people. And you're making blacks go to black-only seminars telling them they are oppressed. Open your eyes to your oppression or else. That's what's going on here, folks. I mean, they can change the words all they want, but ultimately what they're doing is they are attacking people. They are attacking people. When they say they're attacking systems, what they mean is they are attacking people. And they keep trying to move the goalpost. I mean, listen, this is that Eric Dyson guy, Michael Eric Dyson. This is a man who sees race in Cheetos, I'm sure.
And all critical race theory is saying as a theory of law is that it's not about individual acts of bigotry or bias or racism. It is a systemic and institutional network that must be somehow discerned and dismantled. And what they're saying is, let's not point the finger at individual white brothers and sisters and say, aha, we caught you. Let's look at a system that produces and reproduces the pathology of bigotry. Isn't this what we've been saying after George Floyd? We don't want to just point the finger at Derek Chauvin as an individual. We want to talk about police forces which recreate the same pathogen that is unleashed in the body politic.
Aha! Kind of getting to my point, isn't it? We want to talk. We don't want to talk about the individual. Now, here's the thing you've got to internalize and understand. Tim Keller, the theologian, wrote about this with his problems with critical race theory, is that in critical theory, and you hear Eric Dyson getting at this, you, the individual, do not matter. You are a cog in the machine. You don't matter. You're a cog in the system, to use their word. What is the system? The system is the collective people. So in this case, he talks about the police. Who are the police? The police are a group of individuals who come together to keep you safe. But he wants you to believe they are a system. So when you hear these progressive talking about, we're not talking about you, we're not talking about your kid, we're talking about the system, you are part of that system. And therefore, you as a part of that system must be taught that you as part of that system are bad. They can't even acknowledge it. That's the really striking part of all of this, is they can't even acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They think if they acknowledge it, they'll prove us right. And so they keep trying to redefine it. Listen to this. This is Mara Gay. She's the one who, when she sees American flags on trucks, she thinks they're racist people. This is her on MSNBC.
Well, first of all, General Milley did something very powerful, which is that he cut through the coded speech and language and rhetoric around critical race theory and started talking about what it actually is to the American people directly. And of course, I think that's very important. Critical race theory, which was started by Derek Bell, Harvard, is the study of racism and how it has been embedded in America's laws and institutions for generations. And so the prime example of that, just to throw one out there, would be redlining, right? In which essentially the government itself took out a map and said, well, because Black people live in these neighborhoods, we will not give federal loans to allow Americans to buy mortgages in these neighborhoods. And then everything that followed from that, you can just see generation to generation, the loss of wealth and capital.
Now, who made those decisions? People. By the way, redlining is considered a pejorative, and it was certainly abused, but banks did have some sense of doing so. Banks did have some reason. Now, it was certainly taken to extremes, and yes, they did discriminate against Black people. It is absolutely 100% true, but also there were some reasons in some cases that redlining was done in those cases because the people in those areas did have high rates of default or low incomes and couldn't get loans without defaulting on them. I don't want to defend redlining, but it is used as the pejorative and in constant cases, in every single case. And in not every single case did they have illegitimate reasons for doing so. But we're supposed to now argue. We're never allowed to say there were legitimate reasons, even though in some cases there possibly were legitimate reasons, although abused by others. But again, who put redlining in place? What system put redlining in place? For those of you who aren't familiar with the concept, it is areas, communities where banks would not give loans. Typically, it was because of actual high default and crime rates. It was not actually because of minorities, but over time, some banks, particularly in the South, but also in big cities like Chicago and New York and Boston, used redlining to exclude Black neighborhoods from the ability to get loans. But it wasn't a system that did that. They talk about a system, but when they talk about system, they're actually talking about people. And so if we've got to make people aware of the system, we have to make people aware that people are racist. And it's the white people who are racist and the white people who are bad and the Black people who are oppressed and the Hispanic people who are oppressed. And now that they're being called out, they really can't handle the fact that the more Americans learn about critical theory, the more hostile they have become to the idea. The idea that we as a people are systemically racist, that it is woven into the fabric of our society. A society is a collection of people, and that collection of people are somehow bad. People don't like to hear that they themselves are racist. And so what the goalpost move is, well, you're not racist. It's just the system is racist. Who the hell is the system? You and me. Soylent Green is people. It's the same thing. The Democrats really don't like the fact. Progressives really don't like the fact. Educators really don't like the fact that we've caught on to it. And, can I just say, as an aside, one of the things that really deeply infuriates me about all of this is the number of educators, including this Georgia Teacher of the Year, who somehow think they know best what's best for our kids. We have abdicated too much responsibility to education, and this fight over critical theory should just be seen as a fight over parents taking back their role on what you, the teachers, should teach their kids. After all, you freaking pay their salaries. They shouldn't be teaching crazy town to your kids. Before I go to break,